Hello, my name is Nusa Hai Ekbon, or you can just call me Nusa. I am in the Curriculum and Instruction graduate program at the University of Houston. My specialization is in learning design and technology, and this is my educational advocacy final practice project where I developed a change statement and built some tools that can be given to stakeholders to see what this change that I'm proposing is and what are some recommendations that we can do towards making this change and why we even need to have this change. And so my change statement is how intersectionality impacts students in the classroom. And essentially what I want to do is to be able to educate other teachers and instructors and educators on the topic of intersectionality and how it impacts students in their classroom. And this is also for both for those who already know about intersectionality, who want to learn more and know more what they can do to bring it into their classroom, but also for those that have no idea about it at all. So the stakeholders that this video is focus is going towards is for state and city communities, and some examples of these are the Texas State Association, One Houston, and Houston Area Urban League, and all these are organizations and communities here in Texas and Houston that actually work with teachers and students on essentially how to advocate for their rights within the classroom as well. So why is this important to me? Well, this change statement is important to me because I understand that a student, just like I am right now, is going to spend, like a person usually spends a lot of their lifetime in a learning environment, whether that be in an in-person classroom or an online classroom. We spend a lot of time learning. And because we have so many differences, whether that's race or gender, sexuality or ethnicity, able-bodiedness, etc., it can heavily impact a student's learning experience because those differences and those things about us that make us different already impact us in our daily lives outside in society, but in the classroom especially where you'll be interacting with many times the same people for a long time or a certain group of people for an extended period of time. It's important for instructors to be able to learn how to make students comfortable and to help them to grow and to not, make them feel unheard. It should be a safe space for them as well in this. So that's why this change is important to me. And so who benefits from these changes or who can be harmed if no change is made? Well, those who can be harmed and who can be harmed from this if no change is made are marginalized students, marginalized teachers, and the parents of these marginalized students. And so marginalized students are students of, as I mentioned, of different races, of different ethnicities and backgrounds, etc. As I mentioned, because they're spending a lot of time in the classroom, they need that support. They need to know that their voices are heard, that their voices are important so that they can go into the future and be really, functioning members of society. And I also think it would impact the marginalized teachers as well, because while some teachers may have some privilege than others, it can help them to know how to interact with each other, their colleagues, but also it can help them to teach what could be potentially future teachers in their classroom with their students. And lastly, this might seem a bit out of context, but the parents of the marginalized students, it helps them as well because since the student is spending a lot of time in the classroom, whether that's online or in person, when they go back home and interact with those at home, it can impact whatever they experience in the classroom can impact how they are at home and essentially their future. And so that's why I think this is important for us to understand because they all need this support and this community to be able to come together and help each other. And so an example of where this is actually being taken into practice, the University of Denver, Colorado, they actually have started what they call inclusive teaching practices, where they have all these resources like equity workshops and practice modules for teachers to join and to learn how they can make their current teaching and pedagogies more inclusive of students. And based off of, if you go to their website here, you'll see the different resources that they have and all the things that they've already done in the past. And I think it looks like it's been pretty successful so far. And so some recommendations I have for stakeholders watching this are, one thing they can do is have evaluations for teachers to evaluate themselves and evaluate each other on how they're doing currently in their classrooms, as well as doing surveys for the students to fill out and for the parents to fill out, and maybe even other teachers to fill out as well, to find out what they can do, what may be best to do, and what situations students are in. And lastly, similar to what the University of Denver is doing, is having seminars, webinars, and workshops where people can come together, they can learn, and then they can actually put it into practice with one another before actually implementing this into the classroom. And so this is my change statement. Thank you for listening.